Good evening. Thank you for coming to the September 12, 2012 meeting of the Lehigh County Board of Commissioners. Before we get started, I'd like to ask our clerk if you please take roll. Commissioner Critter? Here. Commissioner Dougherty? Here. Commissioner Jones? Here. Commissioner McCarthy? Here. Commissioner Osborne? Here. Commissioner Mazziati? Here. Commissioner Hahn? Here. Commissioner Shelley? Here. Commissioner Schwer? Here. Madam President, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded for public record and ask you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board, we have the minutes of August 22nd, 2012 presented to us before this meeting. We've had a chance to review them. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval? Move approval. Motion by Commissioner Dougherty.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scheller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, have there been any executive sessions held since our last public meeting?
No, since the last meeting before.
Thank you. This brings us to the part of the agenda where the board invites anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to take advantage of that?
Anything else?
Paul ahead.
Good evening. My name is Paula Contra. I wasn't going to come up here tonight, but I decided to come up, and I'm a little bit concerned about the grants that we're going to be accepting. There was a meeting on last Monday about it, and it did not go out to everyone in the community. I heard a lot of email lists, and intellectual disability, it did not go out to them regarding that meeting, so they were not aware of that meeting. So I think we should have, it's required, the grant required that you have 2 public hearings. And I've been to your budget hearing before, and your budget hearing is kind of tight, and to have one of the meetings be the budget hearing meeting, I think that's not appropriate. Because, she should talk about it there, but I think we should have a separate meeting and have 2 open public hearing meetings. That's not part of the budget meetings, because your budget meetings are very tight. Sometimes you have longer than normal people talking, and it goes into 9, 10 o'clock. I'm willing to stay, but some people are not willing to stay that late. So I think you should have 2 separate hearings on the grants that doesn't include this one you're having on the that's on the budget. I don't think that's appropriate. Also, as you're aware, I attend a lot of meetings, and I also go to the state level. So I understand somewhat what's involved with the grant as far as what area it touched in the county. A lot of families don't even know what human services is and what it represents. They don't know what area the grant touched. So it would be better for her to have a list of all the areas that the grant touched, so families be aware that it may affect respite, it may affect family service plan, it may affect this and that. Because families are not aware of the area that this grant touched. So, when she sends the information out saying they have a hearing, she should have a list of all the area that it may affect. When they come to meeting, they know how it affected, but she can at least have a list of what area it may affect. And that wasn't on the email that I received from her, from Tim, regarding the meeting last Monday. So what I'm here just asking for is 2 things. I'm asking that we really have 2 public hearing meetings as required, and it's not part of the budget. You can still have it on the budget, but it should not be part of the budget. And also I'm asking that when the email is sent out, indicate the budget area is going to have it, indicate what area it's going to touch. Because families do not understand what human service is, or understand it's going to touch the FSS, it may affect respite and other things. So that's what I'm asking you to please consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulette. I would like to give you some feedback, but I appreciate your coming up and speaking to the issue. And I'd like perhaps to have the chair of our Human Services Committee talk about the first reading of this particular block grant program.
Well, the meeting, as you said, was on Monday night at 4 o'clock, and Director Creedon gave an overview of the block grant process and how it might affect us. At this point, we don't know that we're going to be accepted into the block grant program because there's been more counties apply than can actually get into it this go around. But it went along rather well. I thought there weren't as many questions as I anticipated, and it ended up, we had a lot of, I think, 2 hours of the meeting, and it actually finished up at about one hour. The second meeting, as you noted, is coming up as part of the budget hearing. I think the desire was to get a meeting that would be a little bit earlier for some people and another one that would be a little bit later. It is, as you know, budget time can run a little bit long. I've just pulled out my schedule for Monday. The Human Services Department is coming up third on the list behind the Commissioner's office, which I don't think will take that long, and then the Coroner's office, which I'm not sure how long it will take. But I don't anticipate that being too lengthy that it would preclude, make people walk away. And that meeting does start at 6:30 on Monday.
Thank you, Commissioner Short. Paulette, is that helpful in any way that we?
It is helpful, but what I was trying to explain is that the requirements for 2 public hearings. And I'm stating that it should be 2 public hearings separate from the budget. I am not saying she should not speak about it in the budget. I'm not saying she should not go ahead and do what she's doing in the budget. I think it's great for people to hear 3 times. But I'm saying that there's some people in the county that did not get an email. I know the Internet Disability did not, because I did not get it through that route. I get a lot of emails from different places. And so I don't think it was widely stated, to everyone. And I don't think people know what human service block grant covers. And so in her email should be explained what area it could touch, because families are not aware of it. And families are like everyone else. Why should I go if it's not going to affect me? But if I don't know it's going to affect me, I might not show up. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying, I'm a little bit concerned about. So what I'm asking for is another hearing after Monday meeting. That's what I'm asking for. And also another email to go out with a detail of what area it may touch, so families can understand, who it might affect or who might not affect. That's all I'm asking for.
Do you have a preference for timing of the meeting? Would you prefer? Do you think a daytime meeting, another daytime meeting, or an evening meeting would work?
I think for families it's even, and for professionals the daytime is better. Professionals like to come when they're getting paid. I'm just saying what I've seen. I'm sorry, but it's what I've seen. So if the daytime is best for them. So alternate, have one in the day and have one in the night.
I'd certainly be willing to forward that along to Director Creedon and see if she'd be willing to hold an additional meeting.
Right. And definitely send emails out to people explaining which one, what it is.
For what it's worth, Commissioner Schwer, you could throw in that I think it's a good idea too. I'm sure that will sway her.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paulette. And also, Paulette, I would like to ask, do you have an opportunity to talk with our clerk concerning getting the PowerPoint presentation from this Monday's meeting?
I haven't spoken to him about it yet, but I'm sure I can get it from him or get it from Jan.
Okay.
Without any problem and stuff. I wasn't able to come. My son was sick, so I was home with him and stuff. I couldn't come, but I will be there on Monday, and if possible, the other meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board on Commissioner Doherty?
Yes, I would just like to say to Paulette, you can be guaranteed that you'll have room at the budget hearing to express your concern. I will be chairing that as the chair of the administrative committee. So we set that up specifically because so many commissioners are going to be out of town in the future weeks. And in addition, you were asking for specifics about the block grant. I've been working on a committee through CCAP with Secretary Alexander, and those details do not exist yet. We have to wait and see if we become part of the block grant. Once the 20 counties are picked out of the 33 applicants, then they will start to refine the procedure, and they're going to phase it in over a several year period. So some of the specifics that you want to know about ID have not been solved yet. And this is especially one of the big stumbling blocks because several groups in Philadelphia have threatened legal action, so the state still isn't settled on an action plan as of yet.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but one of our county is closing down their crisis center, you know, and that's a big thing for families, for people that have mental health, and at night when they're feeling stressed, they call in that number, and the person talk to them and help them through the process. And I've heard one of our county, not this county yet, but another county is closing it down because of what's going on with funding and stuff like that. So I think the counties already know what area it touched. And so that can be explained to families, what area, maybe not the whole thing, but at least I know Rescue is part of it, I know FS has funds is part of it, and some other areas that it's going to affect families and stuff. I think the counties already know those areas that it's going to affect, and they can kind of put it on an email and kind of be aware that it may affect these areas and stuff. I know right now the county don't know how they're going to do it, or how they're going to implement it, or which area they're going to eliminate, or whatever they're going to do. That has to be decided by you at all and stuff. But as far as what area it may affect, I think Jen kind of knows that those areas and stuff. That's what I mean. Like.
Remember, each county is going to be different under the block grant. Right now, we can only spend the money that we have in that category.
Correct.
And the good thing about the block grant is, especially, Jan mentioned at the hearing, that we're going to be getting more public input, which has not been available in previous times. So you'll be able to show up at hearings and have more input in this.
Yeah.
And you can have more of an impact here at Lehigh County than you can in Harrisburg. So we can spend, as we phase this in over the years, by the time we get to the 5th year, we will be able to shift money from one categorical to another categorical that is a greater need here locally. So it gives us the flexibility that I think you would be really happy to see.
I'm always hoping that you're aware to whatever you want to do and stuff. Listen, I feel that I want more voices at the table. And I want more families and professionals at the table, because you want to hear all sides of the problems. Because mental health side that I heard the other day in another county that's in our area, the mental health, you know, Christ line, they're going to exempt that possibility. That was a big thing, because, you know, when you're feeling depressed and stressed, you want to call somebody, and you may not get the call, but that's not our county, that's somebody else. But you're correct. I'm just open to hear, but I just want people to be aware and be able to come to these meetings, open air meetings, and we have fun at these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. Would anyone else? Yes, this is Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some handouts in here tonight to document can everybody hear me, first of all? I broke this down into 3 5-minute segments. And I brought, these are not accusations, these are not allegations. I have evidence to back up everything I'm saying. This is about, first of all,
This is Brown.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to interrupt just for a second.
Sure.
You were before the board previously, and you
Yes.
had asked the board to take on a couple action items.
Correct.
And I'd like to have the Chair of our Human Services Committee, Commissioner Schwer, speak a little bit before you continue. Commissioner Schwer?
We had, in response to, I don't know if it's the same matter or a different matter that you brought up, it had gotten referred to the Human Services Committee. As Chair of the Human Services Committee, I looked at the information that you presented to the board, went back, and there were really 2 issues. There was a personnel issue, which we really can't discuss, and also a care issue that ended up being, I think, related to the personnel issue. After going through the information, I think I was satisfied that the personnel issue had been looked at at various levels and enough levels where, you know, I didn't think it was on us to delve into it further. And the care issues, because they were related to the personnel issue, our concern was if there were any care issues that still existed today or whatever. And we did have Director Creedon come in and gave a presentation, and I think we all felt satisfied that things were currently being run well from a care perspective. So that's what happened in the past, and I'll take that.
Thank you, Commissioner Swear. Mrs. Brown, what I'd like to say, again, before you continue,
Absolutely.
is that this matter has been before the Board of Commissioners numerous times over the past several years, and again, most recently, as you brought it up several months ago. As chair, I did, as you had requested, I referred this matter to the Human Services Committee. Commissioner Schwer has reported to the full board previously in your absence, and we have given you now a summary of what was said at that time. We met, the Human Services Committee met with the Area Agency on Aging, and the individual personnel issues will not be addressed by this board.
That's fine.
Therefore, I am not going to allow any further input on this subject or any future subjects by this board. Should a member of this board wish to discuss this matter any further, you can make a motion to appeal the decision of the board. This matter is closed otherwise.
Okay.
Mrs. Brown,
Yes.
I said this matter is closed
Okay.
unless the decision of the board is appealed by any of the commissioners and taken to a vote.
Okay, then I'd like to address another issue that Dr. Doherty knows about and the rest of the board has not heard about. It deals with negligence, systemic negligence. It
Mrs.
is
Brown, is this related to?
This is another matter, totally different matter. Dr. Doherty is the only one who's received any information from me on it, and the county controller.
Mrs. Brown, I will give you a very short time for me to decide whether this is truly a different matter or not, but you have a very short leash on this topic.
Okay. This deals with another department here, inter-department negligence. I would let Dr. Doherty address it. Dr. Doherty is the only one, and including the county controller who received a letter from me on it. Another department here who took money from my.
Mrs. Brown,
And
these are similar to the accusations you made
No,
before.
it's-
This board will not address
It
this
is
topic
nothing-
this evening.
Mr. Chairman, with all respect, it has nothing to do with what anybody has seen before other than Dr. Doherty. Money was taken from my pay and was going to be escheated to the state without my knowledge or consent, with nothing being sent to me. The county controller even gave me my telephone number, gave me my email address, and nobody there bothered to contact me until I came in personally to ask for my money. So this is systemic negligence, not just this one department. I wish,
Mr. Chair.
I wish, especially with.
Mrs. Brown, I will allow Commissioner Doherty to speak
Okay.
to this because
Thank
he's
you.
asked to do that, and then this subject is closed. Commissioner Doherty.
Yes, I can speak to this. Several of you may remember a list of ex-employees that was sent out. And I looked over the list and I identified probably a half dozen names on there, one of which was Mr. Broughton. And I sent an email to all the ones that I had an email on. So the personnel department was looking for these people, and believe it or not, it even included 2 previous county commissioners who had not changed their email addresses or their addresses. So I do think there is some validity to the argument that's being made here tonight. That both Mr. Eckhart and I both identified several names on the list and reported these to the administration.
My decision not to listen any more to this subject is firm. If there is a motion by any commissioner on this board to appeal the decision of the board to continue the conversation, I will entertain that. Absent that, this matter is closed. Hearing no such motion, Mrs. Brown, thank you for your input this evening. The matter is closed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners. I will turn the information now over to the action reporters here tonight. I'm very disappointed in the action of this commission because this has to be
Thank you, Mrs. Brown.
law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the board on a non-agenda item? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Julian Stoltz, 325 Adrian Street, Apartment 2, Emmaus, Pennsylvania, 18019. A few weeks back, the East Penn School Board of Directors received a presentation from a Staten Island businessman working in conjunction with Montgomery County developers, talking about bringing in a shopping center off the 222 bypass. The development is slated to include, among other things, a Target, a Costco, several other stores along those lines. At our next meeting, we will be hearing another presentation asking the East Penn School District, in conjunction with the county, to explore the possibility of allowing the formation of a TIF, or tax increment financing. This would, as I understand it, reduce the tax level for a set number of years for this developer for the purpose of paying off the bonds for the development. This is scheduled to be built, if this goes through, on what is an old iron mine, and they're also asking for state funds to clean up this land. As a matter of fact, we were told by this developer that without government assistance, this project will not be viable. I believe in a free market, and I know many of you do as well. And in a truly free market, I do not believe that a project is viable if it proceeds, if the only way that it can be built is with government funds. I'm sure that this businessman, like any good businessman, would oppose further regulations from the government getting in his way with his business, and he would oppose that here in front of you folks, as would as well with the state and the school board. And he would be right to do so. But he should not then expect in turn that the government will assist him in building a business. We either believe in free market principles or we don't. Too often government officials will oppose the expansion of the state and oppose government, but at the same time will use their power with the government to subsidize businesses for the purpose of creating jobs. But it is not the constitutional duty of the government to create jobs, but rather it is the purpose of government to get out of the way of job creators and give them fewer regulations and fewer hurdles to get over, as well as lower taxes for everyone, and not just a select few businesses picking market winners and losers. We've seen far too much of that at all levels of government in this day and age. We were told that without government assistance, this developer might well move his project far afield, depriving the county and the school district of much needed tax dollars. Of course, we're all squeezed for money these days. The economy is all. Such a threat, in my opinion, amounts to extortion, and I don't do business with extortionists. If you believe, as I do, that nothing of value can be acquired from government without losing part of your soul and part of your essential liberty, I ask you to join me in standing for limited government and free markets and join me in opposing this project when the time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Would anyone else like to address the board? Mr. Sanchez.
Thank you, Commissioner John Emmaus. I'm going to speak basically on the same thing in another program that Emmaus just had for Alerta, which is a similar thing where our tax money is being requested for private enterprise. I videotape a lot of our school board meetings and our borough meetings, and I do have a disc here that has their explanation as far as like the Staten Island developer that came, explained what the TIF was, how it was going to be applied, and why they needed it. And I will pass this, I guess, to the clerk. I only have one. You may make bits of copies as much as you want. Both on
No copyright issues?
no copyright issues. None. As a matter of fact, they may be up on a site that we have that we host, again, epcat, epcat.us. It's epcat, epcat.us. And I'm not sure they're up there quite yet, but they will be. Anyway, I can pass this along. And I also agree with Julian, he's much more eloquent at this than I am. I just basically oppose government money being used for private enterprise. Or at least at the very end, we should say, we'll give you this money, but we want it back at the end so that we can give your competition the same benefit that you had against their competition. So,
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I haven't been here for a while. Since
Welcome
the
back.
new board's on. What I'd like to do is just ask a question or try to get some information on what I talked about the last time. When I came in, it was about the Central Elementary case rate because the county did not report it and it was their child. And I was trying to see if legally they had to report it. Well, I found the truth that they do. So I would like to email you the proof to your sites and ask if, I don't know if it's your position that you have county businesses like children and youth report and follow the law, or if that isn't in your department, because they didn't report like they're supposed to legally, federal and state. Who is the responsible person do I address? Is it the county? Is it the attorney? You know, that's what I'm trying to find out because I need them to follow the proof. So I'm going to send you the proof so you tell me who I report to, because that's a costly mistake. And I'm really big concerned because we spent $850,000 to pay the children. First child got nothing. So what's he doing? And the lawyer got $250 plus. Now that's county that's affected, state, you know, the city taxes, school taxes, you know, so we need to stop that and protect our children. So I need to know who do I report to? So I'm asking you.
It's a very serious matter, so what I would like to do is, in attempting to answer your question, perhaps turn the question over to our solicitor.
It is a very complicated case, and I don't have all the facts. What I would suggest that you do is perhaps put in writing your question and direct that to the Department of Human Services, and then they would go to the legal department. The legal department does not provide legal services to the public. We provide legal services to the county, but that would be the best way to get your question, at least before a body.
Okay, what I'd like to do then is I'll have it together like it did, but I'd also like to send it to all of you because I'm really making these responsible for how our kids are being protected in this county, and they are not protected in any county because this is going on all over. So I want to address it to all of you individually, and I will send it there, and then maybe we can get something done because I want to see all children protected, even if they're under the protection of the state. That child, if he would have been raped, the school would have had it reported. But because he raped, he was protected by the state and the county, they didn't have to report it because the government knew it. But there's still a law against it. So I can't figure out why it wasn't reported. You know, so I'm going to send it to you. I'm just asking you to take a serious effort because I lost my job that night for coming to you. I was fired by the county, by the area of aging on a case I worked for 12 years. And I took over because of her being abused. But I'm glad I spoke up because I will speak up again till this is fixed. It's worth it. So I thank you for hopefully changing what's going on.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the board on a non-agenda item? Okay. Mr. Clerk, are there any appointments on the agenda for this evening?
Nothing under chair review, and there are no appointments.
Thank you. That brings us to the first of the second reading for several commissioner bills. Mr. Clerk, would you introduce Commissioner Bill 2012-31, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Bill 2012-31, setting for funding allocations from the Community Revitalization Grant Program, has been withdrawn by and sponsored committee clerk. So this bill has been withdrawn.
Thank you. Could I then ask you if you would please introduce Commissioner Bill 2012-32?
Commissioner Bill 2012-32, amending the 2012 and 2016 Lehigh County Capital Plan to include a 911 wireless post-deployment and accuracy testing project. It's still sponsored by Commissioner Shelley.
Thank you. Madam Solicitor?
The purpose of this ordinance is to amend the 2012-2016 capital plan to include a 911 wireless past equipment and accuracy testing project. Ordinance approval is required from any capital plan pursuant to section 708 of the Home Rule Charter and 602 of the Administrative Code.
Thank you. This bill was discussed first in the Planning Committee meeting on August 22nd. And at this point, I'll ask for sponsor comments. Commissioner Scheller?
Yes, what this wireless post deployment accuracy testing project will do will help to make wireless calls into 911 more accurate. Right now, there's a fair amount of inaccuracy when they come in through cell phones and other wireless devices. It's not the same as when they come in through a landline and they know exactly where it is. The funds come out of the capital plan. The funding comes out of the capital plan. It is the specifically, it's not the operating fund. However, because we had spent significantly less on another project utilizing those funds, this is a project that needs to be done. It's just being moved forward into the plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Scheller. Any other commissioner comments? Citizens input? All those in favor of approving Bill 2012-32, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Bill passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk, would you introduce Bill 2012-33, please?
Commissioner Bill 2012-33, approving a stormwater and grading easement agreement with Centralia Ambulance Corps Incorporated for land located in Southwest Township, sponsored by Commissioners Manning and Dockett.
Thank you, Madam Solicitor.
The purpose of this ordinance is to approve an easement with the Centralia Ambulance Corps. The location of the easement is at 4200 Broadway in South Whitehall. Ordinance approval is required pursuant to section 310A6 of the Lehigh County Home Rule Charter, which relates to conveyance of county-owned real estate.
Thank you. This was discussed in the General Services Committee meeting on August 22nd, and at this point, I'll ask for sponsor comments. Commissioner Dougherty.
Yes, thank you. This is, as it states, stormwater and grading easements for the site of the Centralia Ambulance Corps and the coroner's office on Centralia Road at 78. This is the site that's the entrance to the sports fields of Lehigh County. The facility has been approved in previous legislation. We have budgeted money to build the facility. But this is some of the work that's needed to grade the site, to get the site prepared to build the new facility. So we're giving Larry and Centralia the ability to go out there and get the bulldozers in there and start to rip the site up. So not only is this going to prepare the site for the facility, but there's been an agreement made to land bank some of the earth that's being moved there so that we become the beneficiaries of a couple new soccer fields out of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Citizens input? All those in favor of approving Commissioner Bill 2012-33, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Bill passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk, may I ask if you please introduce Resolution 2012-61?
Resolution 2012-61, honoring St. Peter and Paul Roman Catholic Church on the occasion of its 100th anniversary, sponsored by Commissioner Osborne.
Thank you. This particular resolution, as Mr. Clerk has indicated to us, congratulates the congregation and current pastor, the Reverend Dominic Collada of St. Peter and Paul Roman Catholic Church on the occasion of the 100th anniversary and commends all on their continuing contribution to the history, the ecumenical commitment, and the Polish traditions that are important as part of the Lehigh County community. Any other commissioner comments? Is there anyone representing St. Peter and Paul Church? Yes. Thank you. Any other citizens' input?
That would have been an interesting guess.
All those in favor of approving Resolution 2012-61, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk, would you introduce Resolution 2012-62, please?
Resolution 2012-62, honoring Michael T. Rooney on obtaining the rank of Eagle Scout, sponsored by Commissioner Osborne.
Thank you. This is a resolution, as Mr. Clerk has indicated, honoring Michael T. Rooney on the occasion of attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Just for a short introduction of what that means, the rank of Eagle Scout is an achievement which demonstrates outstanding ability, dedication to hard work, and a commitment to serving others. For that reason, it is worthy that Michael T. Rooney received this resolution from this board. Are there any other commissioner comments?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Commissioner Schwer also had his name as a sponsor of this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner Schwartz. Sorry, I overlooked that.
No, that's my mistake.
We may not have this information, but we have parents.
I was just going to ask if the parents or the scouts themselves. So,
No, the resolution will be presented to the Scout Troop Board.
Okay. I've helped with some Eagle Scout ceremonies, and I always know that behind every Eagle Scout, there's usually a very passionate mom and occasionally dad.
Of course, any member of the board is invited to attend. If that's not the case, we'll make sure the resolution gets to the Senate.
any other commissioner input? Citizens input? All those in favor of approving resolution 2012-62, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk, would you please introduce resolution 2012-63?
Resolution 2012-63, approving a professional services agreement with Gwynn Krause Esquire, sponsored by Commissioner Jones.
Thank you. Madam Solicitor?
The purpose of this resolution is to approve a professional services agreement with Attorney Krause to act in the capacity of juvenile dependency attorney. The resolution approval is required for contracts for professional services in excess of $10,000 pursuant to section 801.1B of the Lehigh County Administrative Code.
Thank you. This was discussed in Committee and Judiciary and Corrections Committee earlier this evening. Now ask for sponsor comments. Commissioner Jones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular piece of legislation is, as stated, for Attorney Krause. And basically what he does, and along with a team of others, is they provide, sorry ladies. What she does is to provide legal representation for juveniles in cases involving family issues in court or orphanage cases. He works in a part of a team that also provides representation for parents or those who have custody. And this is required as part of the state requirement. The compensation is capped at $24,000 a year.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Citizens input? All those in favor of approving resolution 2012-63, please say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, could you please introduce Commissioner Bill 2012-34?
Commissioner Bill 2012-34, authorizing an expansion of the Keystone Opportunity Zone on South 10th Street in the city of Allentown, Lehigh County. This bill is sponsored by Commissioner McCarthy. I would note for the record that what's before the board tonight is a revised version of this bill. Paragraph 2B was amended. What's available to the press and public this evening is the correct version. The correct version is also on the Commissioner's website.
Thank you. Madam Solicitor?
The purpose of this ordinance is to authorize expansion of the Keystone Opportunity Zone in the city of Allentown, Lehigh County, as described in Exhibit A1. The PA Keystone Opportunity Zone Act is located in 73 PS 820.101, and it authorizes local subdivisions to apply for designation of areas.
Thank you. Sponsor comments. This was discussed, by the way, previously this evening in the Development Committee. Sponsor comments, Commissioner McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has, since the late 1990s, had a program we call the Keystone Opportunity Zone. And this program, authorized by the state legislature, and has gone over 10 or 12 years in actual performance. In that regard, it permits local municipalities, counties, school districts, and cities, generally cities and boroughs, to, in a sense, suspend taxes on certain properties that are designated KOZ zones. The objective here is to add an incentive for the development, redevelopment in some cases of property. Some of these properties are challenged by environmental issues, some are challenged by other issues. Here in Lehigh County, and specifically in Allentown, we've had some successes with respect to KOZs, which we've had over the last 10 or 15 years. Just as an example, Mr. Scott Unger of the Allentown Economic Development Corporation pointed out to us that the new P&L building is a result of a KOZ incentive. In addition to that, the Brewers facility just up the street, the south side of Allentown along 10th Street, near this particular site we're talking about here, likewise was developed in part because of the incentive given to it by the KOZ status. In Lehigh County, generally in Lehigh County, the Olympus camera facility, office building which became a national headquarters for Olympus, was also, it is in the KOZ. Mr. Unger gave us a presentation. He's here tonight. Cindy Feinberg from our Community and Economic Development Department is also here tonight. The matter being considered for first reading is to designate a property on South 10th Street in Allentown. This property used to be, I think, the Taylor or Trailer manufacturing facility. It was near the former Mack Trucks manufacturing facility. It's a very large building, very old building. Had been devoted most of his entire life to manufacturing and heavy industry. It's a 15-acre site, which is the maximum amount of area that can be devoted to a KOZ situation. And in that respect, we're being asked by the Allentown Economic Development Corporation to consider this particular site for that purpose. Now, it would also indicate we don't operate in a vacuum. All three taxing agencies have to go along with the request for KOZ status. That includes the Allentown School District as well as the City of Allentown. I'm not sure of the term of this KOZ. Is it 10 years? It's a 10-year term. At the end of the 10 years, the objective is the property has been rehabilitated, that it has been enhanced, that it has created jobs, it has improved the amount of its value, so that when it comes off the KOZ situation, it's back on the tax rolls at a higher, more productive use than it presently is enjoying, which is absolutely nothing. It's a vacant building, nobody's there, nobody's doing anything. So I'm requesting favorable consideration at second reading. And again, Mr. Unger is here for any questions, as well as Ms. Feinberg.
Thank you. Would you like to continue the introduction of the subject, or should we take commissioner comments first?
We're happy to take comments first, and then we can react to those if you need
to. Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Doherty.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I would like to be added as a sponsor of this piece of legislation. I have seen what the KOZ has done in Center City, Allentown, and hopefully what is being accomplished out at the Olympus site. Many people worry that these sites are not going to become productive sites in the future. But the sites that were approved back in 2001 are now on the tax roll. And at the meeting, Scott Unger presented a chart showing that we're getting almost $2 million a year in taxes from these particular sites. And when Olympus is finished its 10-year period, it'll come on the tax roll also. The site that we're looking at here on South 10th Street is a dilapidated industrial facility that has virtually no hope at present. Several people have looked at this site, and when they have delved into this, especially with the environmental aspects, they have been shunned away. This is a chance to take a non-productive site and to get jobs there. This is a good site because it's on a rail. So rail sites are very short in supply in the Lehigh Valley. Even though we have many rail lines through here, not all of the rail lines will support local traffic. You know, there's big 100-car trains you see rumbling through Emmaus and the country. They don't stop here. They're rumbling from Canada on the way down to the port of Philadelphia. So it's the smaller lines, like we have the Corman line and some of the other lines, that can serve this industry. And this is a site that has a rail site. So 15 acres can support a lot of jobs in the future. And it can support a lot of redevelopment of this site. Without a KOZ, I think the possibilities here are dismal. With the KOZ site, I think it'll give someone the impetus to come in here and develop maybe the whole site, or maybe to condo the site and bring in a number of industries. One thing that didn't come up in committee, since I represent many of the suburban and rural areas of the McCungies, is that we support redevelopment of the city. That will enable us to preserve our green fields. We don't want to see industrial development using up all of the farmland. We need that to produce food and to have open space for the future. So anytime we can get more development into downtown Allentown, I favor it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dockery. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Bach?
I don't think I'd argue with most of what Commissioner Dockery said, but I'm not sure that it's germane to the issue that's before us. The question isn't whether or not we think it's a good idea to have more industrial development in downtown Allentown. I think we've got a kind of a peculiar issue here. There are some circumstances under which I'd probably be enthusiastically supportive of this kind of thing, especially if we had something like a brownfield site that was already in the hands of some development authority and we needed to move ahead with that from there. In this situation, from what I understand, we actually have a property that's currently in private ownership by an owner who has is somewhat delinquent in their tax obligations. And there is a process occurring right now, whether we recognize it as one or not, that a lot of businesses go through. That at some point, either the guy's going to be able to sell the property or he's not going to be able to pay his taxes and his property is going to sell at sheriff's sale. But in any case, there's an ordinary process that goes here. The artificial element that's been introduced here is this window of opportunity that opens up periodically from the state of Pennsylvania to have this essentially this tax break. The fact that we have properties that are now producing tax revenue who have gone through this gives us one side of the picture, but we can never see the other side of the picture of what would have happened if we had not stepped in and intervened and done that. So it's, Frederick Bastiat's old theory of things that are seen and things that are not seen. And in this case, that's the thing that's not seen. What would have happened if we didn't do anything about this? In this situation, from what I've heard so far, and maybe new evidence will come to me, but I'm inclined to say let's let the commerce take its course, the normal course of business here, and maybe somebody steps in and buys it, maybe somebody doesn't. Maybe this is a once-in-a-lifetime KOZ designation that we'll never get again because Governor Corbett will never allow it. But it's across the street we have another property that's currently under the Keystone Opportunity Zone. They are paying their taxes because they're not doing any projects, even though they have the designation there. I'm not sure that the only solution to this, if we want to call it a problem, and frankly I don't think it's government's problem because it's this guy's property, it's not mine, it's not the government's property, but I'm not convinced that the only way forward here at this point is to immediately designate this as a KOC.
Thank you, Commissioner Roth. Commissioner Schwer?
I just want to jump on it. I have a couple of problems with this. I think, first off, from a fairness issue, it's been stated that the owner's not current on his property taxes now. As I think over the last few years in this economy, a lot of people have been foreclosed upon and a lot of people have lost their properties, business or homes, for not paying their property taxes. And yet here we are, we're going to give a designation to the property owner that will increase the value of his property. I think that's a slap in the face to everyone who pays their taxes. It's a slap in the face to everyone who's lost their homes or business properties for not paying their taxes. And it's a matter of fairness, I think. I also think the fact that there's other industrial sites in Allentown that apparently, are currently being marketed without a KOZ designation. Why are we making this property in particular more valuable? I think this application is also coming to us late. The deadline is October 1st. We're being brought this now because we have to have the first reading tonight, the second reading at the next meeting in order to comply. If this was a priority, this should have been brought to us before now. It should not be brought to us at the last minute. I also think it's premature, as Commissioner Ott said. There's currently people looking at the property. They haven't come to terms yet, but it's not like this has no interest or it's been given up on. We have a situation here where we don't know the property owner. He's not here asking us to do this. We don't know the buyer, potential buyer, and what they plan to do with the property. We don't have all the information that we should have to make this decision on this property. And, again, I think Commissioner McCarthy did mention that the objective of the KOZs is that the property is enhanced and you get it on the tax rolls. Yet, directly adjacent to this property is a property in the KOZ that has not been enhanced. Then, that's, in my mind, the KOZ doesn't always work just by giving us that designation. And I really think, in this case, we need to have more facts before we do something like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwer. Any other commissioner comments?
I would just like to reply that in terms of economic development, in those cases, you don't know what the end product of that property is going to be. You don't know that a certain company is going to move in there. We were very fortunate with the Olympus because when we went through this whole process, they wanted a very large property. It was a brownfield, so it was a fairly easy decision. In this particular case, this is a virtually unmarketable property. People come and look at it and they're turned away. If we're worried about giving the owner of that property an advantage, I am willing to do that so that they sell that property and turn it over to someone. If it means an alternative plan, I even like what Commissioner Ott suggested, that we maybe have AEDC buy this property, and then maybe Commissioner Ott would be more amenable to supporting this from what he said, if this were a government agency. So there are a number of plans that we could do going forward. But the whole thing is this window of opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it now, that window is going to be slammed shut. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coffey.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond on sales. I think one of the problems, you mentioned about ADC or some other organization taking it over. I think one of the problems is in government we have the mindset that we know best what should be done with that property. We heard about the successes of the KOZ and we saw that these properties on the tax roll. We also heard that they hadn't been on the tax roll prior to that because they were owned by an economic development agency. We take the properties off the tax. I don't see the benefit of taking this property off the tax roll. One way or another, we're going to get taxes on this property, whether it's at sheriff's sale or whether it's through the new owner who buys it. I think it's premature to do that. Yeah, and I don't think that we always have the answers or know best or should be in the business of picking winners and losers as far as properties or businesses.
Thank you, Commissioner Schwer. Commissioner Mazziotti.
Yes, I'd just like to make one point. Commissioner, you said that the property was unmarketable, but I think we were told that within the last several months there were several offers for this property that they weren't able to reach agreement on, but I wouldn't say it's unmarketable if they're receiving offers.
Well, the problem has been primarily nobody can get in and find out what the environmental problems are. So anybody who's making a deal with this property would only be making a conditional deal until they find out what the environmental parameters are. So I think that, from my understanding, that has been one of the reasons why this is falling through.
You may be right. I'm not familiar with the details. Maybe you are. But the only thing I do know is that there were several offers in the last several months. And so I don't know. I think people have had trouble selling property these days anywhere. And if you've had several offers in the last couple months, I would say you've got a property that probably has some value.
Well, maybe we should have Scott Unger address that part.
I'm not familiar, other than what I can see on the county tax records, as to the previous history of sales of this property. But I think it's safe. I can very safely state that even if the seller were to sell it at the current asking price that he's asking, he'd be taking a significant loss on the property. So even at basically a fire sale amount, he's having a, excuse me, having a hard time closing a deal.
Commissioner Ron?
And I think it goes back to Commissioner Schwer's point. That's what happens in the market. Sometimes you take a big loss, and sometimes you make a big profit, and sometimes you break even.
Right.
It's just, I'm not totally against any use of this concept. It just seems to us where we may be a little bit ahead of the game here, and we need to let the process play out and see what happens here.
I'm relatively certain that regardless of whether there's a KOZ on the property or not, the seller is going to take a significant loss. So that's not, sure. The KOZ is not really going to impact the current owner very much. The impact it will have is whether or not we can entice a private developer, a new private developer, to come in and make reasonable, productive, highest and best use of a property that's zoned heavy industrial. So I think that's what we're looking at, is what can we do with the property in the future. And if it sells at sheriff's sale, there's no guarantee, even if it's sold for $1, that a private developer could make it work. I don't know that. So I don't know so much as we're not really giving the property owner who's been challenged with this a whole lot of benefit. What we're giving is benefit to the future development opportunities of the site.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. If we give this designation, you mentioned in committee that there's 2 criteria they have to meet in order to be able to actually get the be tax-free. One is that they're code compliant, and the other is that they're current on their taxes. What would stop the current owner from doing the bare minimum to bring it up, up to code, in essence, mothball the property, and pay his back taxes, and then enjoy a 10-year tax holiday until the market improves?
Well, I think there are more criteria. Those are 2 to be discussed. There are more criteria, and we have to open up the entire legislation and look through that carefully. I'd be happy to do that with you. But I can't speak. I'm not a code official. I can't speak to what it would take to bring that property back up to code. I think it would be a challenging effort based upon my understanding of the condition of it and having seen the insides where there's been, all the copper's been pulled out by either vandals or the owner or who knows. So there's no electricity in a safe environment. It would be a significant task to get it to that. And why would the owner who hasn't even been paying his taxes invest that level of money to not be able to rent it again? So it could happen, but unfortunately we're in a position where this program, and I do agree it would be nice if we'd be having this conversation earlier than this. But again, as we talked about, the legislation, I believe, was announced in February, but I don't think it was finalized. There was no confidence that it would remain until after the budget process at the state was completed. So it hasn't been quite that long that it's been out there. But I think what we need to look at is, we have an opportunity to put this in a zone that would help. And many of you have made very good comments that we don't know if it'll work or if it'll be enough. Based on my experience, having done land development my entire professional career in the private sector before coming to the ADC, I've developed a lot of industrial properties. And they're generally challenging, particularly when you're doing redevelopment work. And so we don't have all the answers, but in my experience, I think this is a good approach to give us the best opportunity to put this property back into productive use for the benefit of the county and the city.
Any other commissioner comments? Any other citizens' input?
I would refer you to my comments earlier.
I was in your meeting, but I didn't speak up because you were getting kind of late and I didn't want to disturb your meeting here. My concern is that we had other buildings that we put money in, like the salon over near Allen Street. I don't know if it was KYC or what it was, but we lost money as a taxpayer. And also, you're talking about 10 years and then we get $2 million. Well, has anybody figured how much taxes the school has gone up in 10 years, taking buildings off the roll? And I'm going to speak up against it at the school too, because I'm concerned that we keep taking things off without knowing how many failed, how much taxes did we lose in 10 years, and how much did our taxes go up, and we go bankrupt, and I don't see you giving me a KOC, or whatever it's called. You know, so I'm concerned that, yeah, we need to get businesses. But this is a private-owned business who didn't pay his tax for 1 year. I can tell you, I'm in that situation. I'm paying monthly. And I'm sure businesses do the same thing. Let us do our thing to fix our problem or lose. But give us the opportunity. I don't want you stepping in my life. And I don't think you should step in his. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Mr. Townshend.
John Dodges, you made us again. Ditto from before too, but again, people do everything. We need our tax money right here so that we can invest where we see it's best. This is another tax giveaway. You know, use the $2 million example, 10 years, that's $20 million that you didn't get that could have been put somewhere like a school or whatever. They're going to ask the school for write-offs and stuff too. All these taxing entities. And everybody in the schools are crying that they don't get the tax money from the states for whatever reason. And here we're going to give tax money to, again, private corporations. And the KOZs are even the worst ones because after 10 years, a lot of them walk. And they go to the next KOZ offer. So again, you know, geez, why isn't there one sentence at the end says, you owe us all this money back so we can give your competition the same advantage the next time. I think any of these things, the government should just let this go. Commissioner Ott said, perfect. Things go up, things go down. This is happening to the downtime now. And it's the downtime for people also. 10,000 people a year in Pennsylvania are going on foreclosures. You know, that's the tax money loss. The corporations get to go to get their assessments lowered. And that's a direct, I mean, I hear our school district crying blues because they're losing tax dollars from businesses that exist. And you just said there's a rail line going in there. Why don't you go to the rail company and say, you know, let's work together and let's see if we can't chip in some money and try to get some other corporation to come in here. A whole bunch of things going through my head that way, but please don't do these KOZs. Don't do anything like that. Let the market rule. It works best. You don't use perfect example. Government isn't the best at these kind of things. That's all. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Point of order. The 20 million you mentioned, the 2 million that I brought up, that's how much we're making now. And by the next meeting, Cindy Feinberg has agreed to look and see how much tax money was lost over the 10 years compared to the 10 million that we're making a year now. So this is what we're making now from those properties on this list that have gone back on the tax rolls. So we'll have a better justification at the next meeting if, let's say, we lost $250,000 and now we're making 10 million a year. That's a big profit.
But that's $10 million that you should be making from the assessment. You have 10 years that you didn't make that assessment.
But she is doing the statistics to show the difference.
Okay, but that's
So she'll
total
do
lost
the
money.
analysis.
Total lost money to that beginning period of time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Commissioner Coffey. Yes, sir.
Bill Antrim from Whitehall. I spent over 20 years driving and delivering heavy freight all over the Allentown area and Lehigh Valley and outlying counties over in Jersey and all. I've been in that building many times, in and out of there. If I came in Lehigh Street, I cut off there at the bus station, came down, I don't know, it's 11th Street, and there's a small street, 48-foot trailer, cross that small street, take a left on South 10th Street, down through those row homes there. And I'm sure those people didn't appreciate big trucks coming up and down their road every day. coming in from the Martin Luther King Drive, it's fine. But that building, it's not conducive to anything anymore. It's like the Bethlehem Heavy Forge, except that there, they have access to the interstate quickly and easily. So companies coming in there, you can't, across the street there on South 10th Street, those buildings were more conducive to having a lot of small companies in there, which I also was in their places many times. This building is good for one thing and one thing only, big, heavy industrial machinery. And it's just not conducive to that area of Allentown. That building is, what, 100 years old, needs to be torn down, and then some new type of businesses, if possible, if not, like you say, condominiums, nicer housing for the area. But it's just not, that building's gonna be sitting there forever. It's just not conducive to anything that's really nice for that area. There's not a lot of heavy truck. Like, as I said, there's only 2 ways to get in there. And corporations need a lot more room. And of course, the residents aren't particularly fond of large trucks running up and down the roads all times of day and night. So I would ask you to take a better look at the area and what could be done in it. Thank you.
Thank you.
A couple of responses or some points of clarification. As far as taxes, the vast majority, I think with the exception of maybe one, of the previous KOZs that were approved were already owned either by the city, by the county, by the parking authority, by the Allentown Commercial Industrial Development Authority, or the City of Allentown Redevelopment Authority. So the vast majority of the previous KOZs were already in public ownership and were not on the tax rolls, and were almost in all cases vacant, dilapidated, underutilized buildings, which is exactly the core purpose of the Keystone Opportunity Zone. And relative to the site location, not all of it, ABC owns and operates almost 500,000 square feet of industrial buildings on the other side of South 10th Street. And while it's not as easy to get in and out of as, big wide roads in the suburbs or the sprawling industrial parks, trucks go in and out every day. I've never heard a complaint from a resident, and quite frankly, many of the industries that are on South 10th Street have as many as 75% of their employees are Allentown residents. So it's quite possible that some of the people who are on South 10th Street walk to the facilities that we're talking about. So I will say that I agree with the last person who spoke, that the building in its current condition after the horrible way it was treated is probably a knocker downer. Unfortunately, I do agree it needs to be redeveloped, but I think an industrial, and it could be, I think the condominium you were talking about was an industrial condominium. Housing would not be at all appropriate there. But it could be a series of smaller industrial buildings. It could be a brand new large industrial building. I think it's worth redeveloping.
Thank you, Scott. Any other citizens' input? Okay, hearing none. Commissioner Bill 2012-34 has received its first reading and will be scheduled for a vote in our next meeting. Mr. Clerk, may I ask if you please introduce Bill 2012-35?
Commissioner Bill 2012-35, approving the sale of county-owned land located at 614 and 618 West Hamilton Street in Allentown. The bill is sponsored by Commissioner McCarthy, and there has been a request by the administration to defer consideration of this bill this evening.
Thank you. Having heard that, is there a motion for deferral of this bill?
Let's defer.
Yeah, I would move to defer the bill to, essentially just by way of the record, the situation is such that the negotiations are ongoing with respect to the properties involved, and as Commissioner Dr. pointed out, there's a lot of exciting things happening down in Allentown, and it's my intention to defer this matter. We defer to the next scheduled meeting. However, so that no one comes here anticipating that it's probably not going to be considered until the meeting after that, which is the October 10th meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner McCarthy. So that's a motion to defer.
Yes, it is.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Doxey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The bill has been deferred until our next meeting. Committee reports. Cedarburg Committee, Commissioner Creighton.
No meeting.
Thank you. Development Committee, Commissioner McCarthy.
No additional.
General Services, Commissioner Mazziotti.
No additional.
Human Services, Commissioner Schwer.
I had intended to report back on what happened on Monday at the block grant meeting, and also remind everyone that the next meeting is coming up as part of the budget meeting, but we already covered that in citizens input.
Thank you. Intergovernmental appointments, Commissioner Ron.
Nothing.
Judiciary and Corrections, Commissioner Jones.
That was straight to the point. Ditto. Nothing other than what was covered.
Nothing ditto. Planning Committee, Commissioner Scheller.
Nothing ditto.
Administrative, Commissioner Cochran.
Just to remind you that we're in budget season. We're starting tomorrow night at 6:30 with the budget overview. The next meeting is going to be Monday on the 17th, Tuesday the 18th, Wednesday the 19th, and then we'll be considering the follow-up and amendments to the budget on Monday the 24th. So that should keep us out of trouble.
Thank you. Is there any citizens' input on committee reports? Any commissioner announcements? Commissioner McCarthy.
I don't think it's been well publicized, but I've been informed that there's going to be on September the 22nd a recycling opportunity to take anything with a plug to 3 locations in Lehigh County where it'll be taken from you and recycled properly at no charge. As I said, it's not been well publicized. There are 3 locations in the county. I think one is near where the Olympus facility is. One is up by the community college. The third site even escapes me. Maybe
I think it's
Lowe's in West Bethel, yes. So I think we should try to get the word out, maybe put it on the county website if it's not there already, because it's expensive to dispose of electronics and appliances and so forth like that, and this is an opportunity to have it done in an ecologically sound way at no charge. Thank you.
Any other commissioner announcements? Would anyone else like to address the board on an item we haven't discussed yet this evening? Hearing none, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Meeting adjourned. Thank you for coming.